They have this ongoing program disguised as geoengineering, but I really believe, along with so many others now, there's a base layer under that for cosmic radiation management due to the increases in the galactic cosmic rays due to Earth's weakening magnetic field, as well as the polar wander that's happening that will eventually, I'm saying eventually end up in a magnetic pole reversal.
Adapt 2030 Mini Ice Age Conversations covers changes in our climate due to a new and intensifying grand solar minimum. In the media, overlooking, downplaying, or burying cold weather changes occurring on our planet. This is in order to keep the global warming agenda steaming full speed ahead. I do this podcast and radio program because we need to begin conversations on how to adapt our food growing strategies long before 2030 as agricultural zones shift, affecting global crop output, but very few mainstream media outlets are talking about the most important issue of our time: cold weather crop losses. Our sun is going through a 400-year cycle, which has effects on our weather patterns as our magnetosphere weakens and the jet streams go out of flow. It's not CO2, it's not you, it's the sun. Are you ready to thrive in the Grand Solar Minimum? Then join me for Mini Ice Age Conversations. I'm your host, David DuByne.
And here we do have David DuByne on the line here. I just want to say something, about how deeply ingrained, some of these things are, have been put into us. While I was sitting there talking with John, I'm sitting there, John, okay, John's in Louisiana. In the back of my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, it's like, I'm listening to, to his accent. I'm trying to think, so he's in Louisiana. Well, that's refreshing, when that shouldn't have any context, but that's the way we've been trained to think. Anyway, I guess I will end rantings of a sane man here. And David, are you with us?
I am, and keep your rantings going, because I agree with you. I travel around a lot, and I live out in Asia, so, getting to that whole base of it, we're all just humans. We all need to work with each other. We all need to think about solutions together, and we need to thrive together. It's this whole narrative that's dividing people and putting all these wedges in and getting this indoctrination when you're so young to start thinking about other groups of people in certain ways. And I'm so happy I lived overseas here for a fair bit now. We get so indoctrinated from such a young age, and that's got to really go away if we're going to survive or do anything together in this grand solar minimum. And I'm glad you brought that point up there when you began.
Being over there in Asia, Dave, can you answer me this? Have you met good people over there that, if you got in a battle, you know that they back you up? Good people that you can count on. I'm sure you found a few of those?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the religion out here is Buddhist and Taoist. That's the vibration that's out here, literally. And again, it goes well deeply beyond the religions and the socioeconomic strata and these things. Again, it's about people. And if they trust you with their life, or if they don't, or if you would trust them in a real hard situation, I'm going to say Hong Kong, where they already own it. It's part of China anyway, but they're going to try to control it more. And they're looking at coming out over here into Taiwan. It seems that these bonds are getting a little bit tighter of who can trust who right now. There's been a ramp up in that in the last couple of weeks of, discussions of, the same thing in the States. Would you really protect somebody back there? And who would you trust around your periphery to help you, stay safe when something were to happen? You already have your short list of people you could count on. So it's the same thing out here. There's definitely great people across the planet. And I really dislike that the media always tries to put this in, that everybody's bad, everybody's negative. Anybody different than you has got to be a bad person. And that's a message we're getting pretty much. I just don't agree with that. I don't. There's so many good people. I'm going to say that's like 97% good people, and then there's a couple bad percent out there,
I agree. That this is the indoctrination that we've been charged with. Just get on some technology and some science and take me where you want to go. I might throw a thing in here or there because I love technology. I love talking about, the free energy and how much we've been lied to and how free we could be if we were allowed to create these things, take these inventions, and instead of them being stolen from us and taken down in the dark depths of DARPA and seeing if they can be weaponized before they can be they're given to us. If they can't, it seems like if they can't weaponize it, they just don't even let us have it, if it's going to do us a benefit. But if it's weaponized, well, then they bring it out and tell us it's good when, in reality, it's really going bad for us.
I don't even know how big to start on that or how small to start on it, because when we look at the global scale, the magnetic field on our planet's weakening, and they have this ongoing program disguised as geoengineering. But I really believe, along with so many others now, there's a base layer under that for cosmic radiation management due to the increases in the galactic cosmic rays due to Earth's weakening magnetic field, as well as the polar wander that's happening that will eventually, I'm saying eventually end up in a magnetic pole reversal.
And speaking of cycles, my new book with my co-author Bill Porter, Climate Revolution, a must-read for understanding our sun-driven climate. As we progress deeper into this new Eddy Grand Solar Minimum, weather extremes leading to global food scarcity and higher food prices are here now. This book describes the expected changes, how to survive and thrive during future challenging times, and also practical preparations. The entire book is interactive with over 250 links, so you can click and go out to the scientific aspect of what we're talking about with the repeating cycles in this Grand Solar Minimum. The science is explained so you understand the mechanisms. The solutions are there because we know we're going to face these exact same problems again that were faced in the Maunder Minimum, the Sporer Minimum, the Wolf Minimum. Find designs for building greenhouses, grow guides, beam soil techniques, as well as bioreactors to create your own growth hormones for the soil. Available now, the new Adapt 2030 Climate Revolution. The link's in the description box below.
But at that large scale, why couldn't they use this for the benefit of humanity instead of trying to, corral us once again? It always seems to be like that. There's abilities to give us smooth rainfall across the planet. Then instead of just needing it to bounce radio signals and use it for military applications, why couldn't they use that for the benefit of humanity and try to smooth out rain patterns and get weather patterns and systems to bring us the perfect amount of rainfall for the perfect crop growing zones so everybody would have more than bountiful amounts of food, that our food prices would actually decrease or be almost free? But then it's used to weaponize, you got to try to make a drought in this country. And then all the while masking everything because they don't want to have panic on the planet because you talk about a weakening magnetic field, like they need to recharge it and use, nanoparticulates of metals to try to nullify the energized particles coming into our atmosphere. And, that's scary. They won't pay their taxes. So, how far do we go with that? I mean, that application alone would be a civilization enhancing technology. If we could truly, like they'd say, perhaps, with geoengineering and then the heating of the ionosphere and different types of technologies, we could stabilize rainfall. Can you imagine a stabilizer? But look at what happened in the middle of the United States. Was that a weaponized flood to kind of wipe out American food production and Chinese food production? Because it happened in two places. Not sure.
Yeah, well, that's what they do to us. They tell us, we've always had floods and we've always had this, but not to this extent. If there is something major going on out there, it's like, well, if they really told us that, everyone would panic, if they thought that there was some other life out there, because we've always been told that we're the only intelligent species that's ever been put here, because God, came and sprinkled a few little grains of something over here on the planet, and boom, there were people, and we're the only thing out there. Would it be that scary to know the realization that, wow, there are other forms of life out there, not on this planet, that are intelligent, that think, that have thought processes? Why is that so scary? Besides, it's a means of control. There's nothing else out there. If it would kind of dilute that being special if we came to the realization that there are other things out there that are intelligent that can maybe be smarter than us in our concept of smart.
No, that's it. I would be happy to chat with an extraterrestrial entity itself. I would like to learn the tech and how their civilizations evolved and what are the cycles that they know about the Birkeland currents in different stars on our spiral arm of the galaxy intertwined with our own solar system. What happens when there's electrical frequency changes in different stars in their part of the galaxy, their spiral arms. How is it all interconnected to us? Because those are the kind of questions I would really want to know, like the workings of their solar system from their star connected to another star and what they know about regional stars around them and then other classes of civilizations inhabiting those planets around there and what the tech is that they're using to jump from point A to point B. I say this in all seriousness. I really do believe in Stargate technology, that there are possibilities to jump to other distances far across the galaxy or far into other planets, even with our own solar system. It's been talked about through ancient antiquity, and we know for sure when you find these large carved, they almost like doorways on the surface of, predominantly sandstone, giant faces of either mountains or rocks in the desert. Those are conduits. You need to put your head up against those, and certain chanting frequencies will allow you to jump in or transit to a different place. It's been talked about for how many, 5, 6, 8,000 years. So I know there's other tech out there, and imagine instead of having to use rockets to jump to another place, imagine if we could replicate that technology where we would need no transportation. We could literally jump from New York to LA in like 2 seconds, and we could put all of our big trucks through, portals like this, and they could drive through in half of a second. We would need no fuel. We would need no airlines. Everything would be instantaneous. If you wanted to go have lunch in Italy, you just jump in there. You want to go rafting on the Zambezi River in Africa, there you go there for the weekend. This is the kind of idea where my mind is. This tech is being hidden from us to lock us in, like Tesla Technologies. We don't need all this copper cabling across the planet and this spider web. We don't need it.
No. Transmission of energy through the air. I've stood, between a couple of Tesla coils and grabbed, a fluorescent bulb. And wow, it lights up like a lightsaber in your hand. You don't feel a thing. Don't feel any detrimental effects. Of course, there could be long-term effects. They haven't informed us of those. But once again, what you're talking about, like Stargate, with the concept that time is a set thing. It's a duration, and that distance is a set thing between point A and point B. Our minds have been closed off to the possibility of what if that distance, that line, that timeline, could be bent and twisted, and instead of a straight line from point A to point B, it can be manipulated to where that line becomes a circle, and when it almost touches at both ends and you almost close that circle, well, you can jump from point A to point B, basically what we would consider instantaneously at that point. You just step across that little divide there, and you're at the other end. What used to take you light years to get to, you can just take one step across that little gap, and you're on the other side of the galaxy. It's kind of where you're talking about, the basically space-time. There are creations of us. It's a duration and it's a distance, but that it's not something that's immutably set, like we've been told it has been.
TrueLeafMarket.com. I really want to talk about growing your own food, which will be a necessity moving forward. And there's so many ways that we can go about growing different types of vegetables that we're going to need. Microgreens are incredibly nutritious. They're super fast to grow. In less than a week, you can have something that you can eat. Also, sprouts. We can get those a little bit taller, a little more dense, a little bit larger volume on the vegetation mass coming off of there. So how do you know what kind of sprouts to grow? How about wheatgrass or herbs? What about different types of herbs that we can add to our foods? Now, what I just described to you, there's a full range of starter guides there at TrueLeafMarket.com for you to take a look at. Even if it's just for your own knowledge and you don't purchase something from them, at least get the information so you know how to grow microgreens, you know how to grow sprouts, you understand what some of the herbs are for. TrueLeafMarket.com. Use the link below and give yourself the gift of organic and heirloom seeds.
Yeah, that's correct. Absolutely. And again, if we could bring that same tech on a galactic level and we could bring it down to our own planet here, can you imagine how that would transition our entire society? Use a mind experiment to couple all this together for the benefit of humanity. If we were to use geoengineering and possibility for galactic cosmic ray management to give us completely stable rainfalls where we could produce the highest yielding crops that we could possibly get in areas to grow that are, in that grow zone for specific species of plant. And then we wouldn't need to have to pollute our environment with particulates, and we could jump through and have that instantaneous movement between cities, continents. How would that change our society the way we would think about things? We would need no fuel. There'd be no wars with fuel because we wouldn't need access to fuel. Because I'm probably sure that we could use Tesla technologies and antigravitics developed by Dr. Brown in the 1960s and even further back with Marconi to be able to use electric. Yeah, why don't we have weightless objects that are using counter-rotating disks? This stuff's been around since the 60s. We don't need fuel. Can you imagine coupling that with a delivery system where you can literally jump from cities across continents in seconds, where you wouldn't even need fuel to run those motors? You could push them electrically across the void that you're talking about. Now think about how different our society would be and how much we would not have to work. This manipulation of finance to keep people stuck in their slave positions would stop in a second. They'd have the whole reworkings of the way we perceive reality would be very different. So I'm wondering if out in the galaxy somewhere there is a society like this that has gone to the Uber for the benefit of that society versus the enslavement of it, like ourselves right now here.
Yeah, like I said, I like your mindset. I like where you're going because, we've been trained basically to close our minds off. We are told information that we've got to, memorize, just rote memorization, and be able to vomit it back up when something called a test is put in front of us. That is reality. We've been told what reality is. We've not been taught to experiment and experience. Is this reality or is it not? We've been trained not to question, take something as fact. Evolution is fact. No, science itself says that, science is never set. It is always changing. It is always questioning. That is science. It's questioning. It's finding out, is what we call truth, or is it particles smaller than the neutron and the proton and the electron? Well, we pretty much know that there are quarks and it's, all these other subatomic particles, and that's not the ultimate either, because what does it all come down to? What, just frequencies, wave particles, floating through space, which no one can really explain to us what a wave particle is. Does that electron that starts at the hydroelectric plant actually end up going through my washing machine when I'm cleaning my clothes, or is it just a change in potential that Tesla figured out that all he had to do was stick an antenna up in the air and ground it and run it through a circuit, and hey, you could have free energy anywhere you want to. You wouldn't have to be, tethered to the heat of the power company and be, subservient to them. It gets cold, and I kind of like to stay warm, but I've got to have electricity to be able to do that. So you've got to be subservient to a power that's out there that it's perceived as a public good, but really it's a big means of control. If we had our free energy, you could stick an antenna up in the air and cook your lunch. You get cold, stick an antenna up in the air, hey, you can get yourself warm. You're hot, hey, stick it up there, with something else, we can cool that air, and then we can stay cool. We got the energy to do it. That would make us really free. You wouldn't have to be tethered to that life support system.
But I thought the science was settled.
Yeah.
They leave you locked in that box, right? They have all these other devices and ways that could free our lives. And when I say free our lives, I truly mean that, because look at the waking state of people on the planet. How much time is devoted each week to go to work, to earn a salary, to pay for these very same things we're talking about right now? Heating your home, buying your food, the fuels for transportation, the insurance on your car. We wouldn't need any of that, because if we were jumping from place to place, you wouldn't need the vehicles we wouldn't even need roadways as we perceive them as much as we have in our mind, the way we put out this highway system to get these clunky metal things to go down with rubber tires on them. It would be completely different.
Maybe still clunky metal things, but, I remember back the old Dick Tracy cartoons, where they're, flying around in an anti-gravity chariot, talking to each other on their wrist TVs, they're communicators. Well, they've let us have the communicator finally after a long, long time, because back then, you remember back then, all the reports people were saying, scientists were saying, yeah, in 10 years we'll really be doing this. And then all of a sudden it just kind of dropped. Well, we've kind of got the wrist communicators now, but they don't let us have the electrogravitics, do they? Because we could just go anywhere we want to at any point that we wanted to, and not have to be restricted to roadways, license taxes, and all this stuff. They keep us constrained and under control.
Because if I had my own electrogravitics or, anti-gravity craft, I would like to go with my girlfriend under the rings of Saturn and watch the sunset. These are the kind of things I would do for my free time. I would go off-planet, rings of Saturn, watch the sunrise, sunset, whatever, out the viewing window of the cockpit there and take a look. Why should we not be able to think like this? Why should we not be able to think about going to other planets for a weekend if we have this tech, or even going further to other star systems? Because I look at some of these movies, such as Star Wars that we've seen in Stargate. I do believe a lot of this is the real world thing that they're sort of drip feeding in, that there could be the possibility of other class 3 civilizations out there somewhere that are far advanced from us, but there are trading posts and things intergalactically are traded. I mean, when you think about intercontinental trade that we have now, why wouldn't it be anything else, or the interplanetary trade? I mean, we have things they might not have, and the way we could possibly use gravity to create something different, they can't, because their gravitational field's different. Or the way they can construct molecules and atoms in some sort of a vessel that we can't do, because it's based on vibration and frequency and electricity, right? They could do something different that we haven't mastered the tech with yet.
People have seen these unidentified object in the sky that zip, and they'll do 90-degree turns, in a cute turn, and you come back the same direction at fantastic speeds. It's like, well, that's just got to be a figment of my imagination, because they'd get crushed if they went at a 90-degree angle doing that speed. And it's like, well, and once again, they keep us so preoccupied that we don't sit down and expand our minds and see possibilities.
This video is brought to you by our friends at TrueLeafMarket.com. Heirloom and organic seeds for any grow zone on our planet.